The first sign that something was wrong came when my laptop wouldn't boot up. Just a black screen, no matter how many times I pressed the power button. My heart rate quickened. 5 years of research, countless sleepless nights, all stored on that hard drive. I'm Nina, and until that moment, I thought I was 3 weeks away from defending my PhD thesis on corporate ethics and whistleblower protection. Now I was staring at a dead screen, trying not to panic. "Percy!" I called out to my husband. "Can you come look at this?" He appeared in the doorway of our home office, coffee mug in hand. "What's wrong, babe?" "My laptop won't start. Nothing's happening." Percy set his mug down and leaned over my shoulder, his cologne too strong this early in the morning. He pressed a few keys, tried the power button again. "Did you back everything up?" "Of course I did. Multiple places." I grabbed my external hard drive from the desk drawer, hands trembling slightly as I connected it to Percy's computer. Empty. Completely empty. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Everything was there yesterday." "What about the cloud backup?" Percy suggested, his voice oddly calm. I logged into my cloud storage. Access denied. I tried again, and again. Nothing. "I need to call tech support." I reached for my phone just as the doorbell rang. "That'll be Mother," Percy said. "She's joining us for breakfast, remember?" Regina swept into the house like a cold front, her designer handbag swinging from her arm. "Nina, darling, you look dreadful. Trouble sleeping?" "My thesis—" I started to explain, but she cut me off. "Oh, all that corporate whistleblower nonsense? Perhaps it's a sign you should focus on more traditional pursuits." She smiled, her lipstick perfect as always. "Percy tells me you've been talking about starting a family." I ignored her, dialing tech support with shaking fingers. 1 hour turned into 3, no explanation, no recovery possible. 5 years of work, gone without a trace. "These things happen, sweetheart," Percy said, rubbing my shoulders. "Maybe Mother's right. Maybe it's time to consider other options." I barely heard him. My mind was racing through every backup, every safety measure I'd put in place. None of this made sense. That evening, I sat in the dark office, staring at my useless laptop. Percy and Regina's voices drifted up from the kitchen below, where they thought I couldn't hear them. "She'll get over it," Regina was saying. "It's better this way. That research could have caused problems for the foundation. We've nipped her ambition in the bud, just like we discussed." Percy's response was softer, but clear enough. "I know, Mother. You were right, as always." The world stopped spinning for a moment. My husband's words echoed in my head, each syllable a betrayal. 5 years of research on corporate whistleblower protection, research that could have exposed practices at the Harrison Foundation, his family's company. Of course, I sat there, perfectly still, as their voices continued below. Every touch, every comforting word from Percy over the past few hours played back in my mind with new meaning. The too calm reaction, the gentle suggestions to give up. They thought they'd broken me, destroyed my work, my dreams, my future. I stood up slowly, my body moving on autopilot. In the bedroom, I pulled out my overnight bag, the one Percy never noticed I kept packed after watching my mother escape my father years ago. I took only what I could carry quietly, some clothes, my passport, the emergency cash I'd hidden inside an old textbook. In the kitchen, their voices continued, discussing my future as if it belonged to them. Regina's laugh floated up the stairs, the sound of a victory she thought she'd won. I wrote a single line on a post-it note. "I know what you did." Stuck it to Percy's pillow. The night air was cool on my face as I slipped out the back door. My car was parked around the corner, keys in my pocket. They wouldn't hear me leave. Tomorrow, they'd wake up to find me gone. Percy would probably call my friends, my department, maybe even the police. But I'd learned enough about disappearing from my research. I knew how to vanish, how to rebuild, how to wait. They thought they'd destroyed my work on corporate whistleblowers and ethics. Instead, they'd given me the perfect case study. I just needed time to build it. I started the car, my hands steady now. In the rearview mirror, our house, Percy's house, grew smaller and darker. I didn't look back again. They wanted to nip my ambition in the bud. They should have remembered that some plants grow stronger when cut. 3 months after disappearing, I sat in a cramped office at Metropolitan University, staring at a stack of research assistant applications. My new boss, Dr. Fatima Rodriguez, tapped her pen against her desk. "Your credentials are almost too good," she said, studying my carefully edited CV. "Why would someone with your publication record want an entry-level position?" I'd practiced this answer. Personal reasons required a fresh start. I'm rebuilding from scratch. Fatima leaned back, her dark eyes sharp. "And the gap in your employment history?" "Family emergency. Not technically a lie. I had to step away from academia temporarily." She nodded slowly. "Your reference from Dr. Martinez is glowing. But..." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I notice you've published under different names." My heart skipped. I'd used variations of my name to make it harder for Percy and Regina to track my work. "Professional evolution," I said smoothly, "testing different academic identities." "Fair enough." Fatima stood up, extending her hand. "Welcome aboard, Nina." That handshake marked the beginning of my resurrection. Over the next few months, I threw myself into work, helping Fatima with her research, while secretly rebuilding my own thesis from memory. One evening, as we were reviewing data, Fatima broke our comfortable silence. "Someone's been asking about you." My fingers froze over the keyboard. "Who?" "A man named Percy. Says he's your husband." "Ex-husband," I corrected, my voice steady. "We're not in contact." Fatima watched me carefully. "He seemed worried. He's an excellent actor." I met her gaze. "Please don't tell him where I am. Already told him I'd never heard of you." She smiled. "Whatever you're running from, your secret's safe with me." That night, I worked later than usual, piecing together my research on corporate whistleblower protection. My original thesis had focused on how companies silence internal critics. Now, I had personal experience to draw from. "You're not the first," Viviana, one of our graduate students, said one day over coffee. "My sister's research on gender discrimination got accidentally deleted right before submission." "What did she do?" "Started over, published under a pseudonym. Now she's tenured at Yale." Viviana grinned. "Sometimes the best revenge is success." Those words became my mantra. Every morning, I arrived before sunrise, rebuilding my work piece by piece. Every evening, I scanned academic journals, looking for patterns of sabotage against female researchers. 6 months in, Fatima caught me working on my thesis late one night. "I wondered when you'd start again," she said, pulling up a chair. "Want to tell me the real story?" I hesitated, then told her everything. The sabotage, Percy's betrayal, Regina's orchestration. "Those bastards," Fatima muttered when I finished. "You know what this means? Your new thesis needs to be twice as powerful." She helped me restructure my research, expanding its scope beyond individual whistleblowers to systematic suppression of academic work. We worked weekends, holidays, early mornings. "Your ex-husband's family foundation keeps coming up in my research," Fatima said one day, showing me a series of news articles. Multiple cases of suspicious project cancellations, all targeting women researchers. "Add it to the case studies," I said, my voice cold. "But don't use my name." A year after starting over, I submitted my new thesis under the name N.R. Richardson. 2 months later, it passed peer review with distinction. Congratulations, Dr. Richardson, Fatima said, handing me the acceptance letter. Ready to shake up the academic world? I smiled, thinking of Regina's face when she dismissed my corporate whistleblower nonsense. The funny thing is, I told Fatima, they thought they were protecting their family's reputation. Instead, they gave me the perfect case study in corporate corruption. What now? Now? I looked at the growing pile of interview requests from ethics journals. Now we build something they can't delete. That evening, I received an email from an anonymous employee at the Harrison Foundation seeking consultation on internal ethical concerns. They had no idea who I was. They'd found my work through academic channels. I stared at the email for a long time, thinking about karma and timing. Then I typed a simple response. I'd be happy to help. Let's schedule a meeting. Fatima found me still at my desk, smiling at the screen. Good news? She asked. The best kind, I replied. The kind that takes patience. She squeezed my shoulder. Whatever you're planning, I want front row seats. I closed my laptop, thinking of Regina's smug smile, Percy's weak excuses. They thought they'd silenced me. Instead, they'd given me a voice that would echo through every corporate boardroom in the country. Trust me, I said. The show's just beginning. Dr. Richardson, your next interview is here. My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. 2 years had transformed me from a research assistant to a sought-after expert with my own consulting firm. Send them in, I replied, adjusting my blazer. The door opened, and a young woman entered, clutching a laptop to her chest. I'm Viviana, she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder. From the Harrison Foundation. My pulse quickened, but my face remained neutral. Please sit. Tell me what brings you here. She opened her laptop, hands shaking slightly. I've been documenting irregularities, financial decisions that don't add up, projects suddenly cancelled without explanation. And all led by women? I asked quietly. Viviana's eyes widened. How did you know? Pattern recognition. It's what I do. I leaned forward. Show me. For the next hour, she walked me through spreadsheets, emails, and meeting minutes. Regina's fingerprints were all over them, the same tactical destruction she'd used on me, repeated dozens of times. The board's calling an emergency meeting next week, Viviana said. They're bringing in outside consultants, but Mrs. Harrison, she has ways of making problems disappear. I smiled. Not this time. Later that day, Fatima burst into my office waving a financial magazine. Have you seen this? Harrison Foundation under investigation. Ethics expert N.R. Richardson to lead internal audit. The press works fast, I said, taking the magazine. Are you ready for this? To face them? I traced my finger over the headline. I've been ready for 2 years. The next week, I stood in the Harrison Foundation's lobby, surrounded by marble and old money. My heels clicked against the floor as I approached the reception desk. Dr. Richardson for the board meeting. The boardroom was all dark wood and leather chairs. Board members filed in, followed by their legal team. I arranged my papers, waiting. At exactly 9 Saug, the door opened again. Percy entered first, his face lined with worry. Then Regina, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, radiating authority. They took their seats without looking at me. Let's begin, the board chairman Eric announced. Dr. Richardson, please share your preliminary findings. I stood, clicking to my first slide. The Harrison Foundation shows a systematic pattern of project termination and fund reallocation, specifically targeting female-led initiatives. Regina's head snapped up. I continued, my voice steady. Over the past 5 years, 23 projects were cancelled without cause, all led by women, all showing promising results before sudden technical failures or data loss. Percy shifted uncomfortably. I advanced to the next slide. Most recently, the Foundation cancelled Dr. Sarah Palmer's medical research, citing server crashes. Dr. Emma Wright's environmental study, all backups mysteriously corrupted. Professor Helen Torres's economic analysis, data irretrievably lost. This is circumstantial, Regina interrupted, her voice sharp. You can't prove. Actually, I said, meeting her eyes for the first time, I can. Because you used the same method to destroy my PhD thesis 2 years ago. The room went silent. Percy's face drained of colour. Regina's perfectly manicured hands gripped the table. I don't know what you're talking about, she said coldly. Nina? Percy whispered. I ignored him, addressing the board. The Foundation's ethical breaches extend beyond project cancellation. I have evidence of systematic discrimination, fund misappropriation, and deliberate sabotage. This is absurd, Regina snapped. Who are you really? I smiled, the same smile she'd given me the morning my laptop died. I'm the whistleblower you failed to silence, the researcher you couldn't erase, and now I'm the consultant who will decide the Foundation's fate. Eric cleared his throat. Dr. Richardson's reputation in corporate ethics is unimpeachable. If she has evidence... She's Percy's ex-wife. Regina stood, her chair scraping back. This is a personal vendetta. My relationship to your family is irrelevant, I said calmly. The evidence speaks for itself. Shall we continue with the presentation? Percy started to speak, but I cut him off. Save it for the deposition. The board meeting lasted 3 more hours. I presented document after document, each one a nail in Regina's coffin. When I finished, Eric called for an immediate executive session. As security escorted Regina and Percy out, she turned to me. You'll regret this. No, I said softly. I won't. Later that night, Fatima called. I just saw the news. Harrison Foundation faces ethics investigation. How did it feel? I looked out my office window at the city lights. Like watching a house of cards start to fall. And Percy looked exactly like someone watching his world crumble. I paused, just like I did 2 years ago. Karma's a beautiful thing, Fatima said. I thought of the documents still in my briefcase, the ones I hadn't shown yet. Oh, this isn't karma, I replied. This is just the beginning. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 8 a.m. sharp. I arrived early, settling into my seat as dawn broke over the city skyline. One by one, board members filed in, their faces grim. Eric, the chairman, cleared his throat. Before we begin, Mrs. Harrison has requested to address the board. Objection noted, I said coolly, arranging my papers. But as lead investigator, I need to present my findings first. The door burst open. Regina swept in, Percy and his brother Trent trailing behind her like ducklings. She stopped dead when she saw me, her perfectly composed facade cracking for just a moment. Have we met before? She asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. I smiled, the same practiced smile she'd given me countless times at family dinners. No, but you will remember me soon. Percy grabbed the back of a chair, his knuckles white. Trent looked between us, confusion evident on his face. Dr. Richardson, Eric intervened. Please proceed. I stood, clicking to my first slide. Over the past decade, the Harrison Foundation has systematically undermined or destroyed the careers of at least 37 women in positions of influence. Regina's laugh was brittle. This again? We addressed these baseless accusations. I have emails, I cut in smoothly. Specifically, yours to the IT department. Shall I read them? The color drained from her face. I continued, my voice steady. March 15th, 2 years ago. Ensure all backups fail. Leave no trace. June 23rd. Another troublesome female academic. Handle it like the others. Those emails are confidential, Trent protested. Stolen emails, Regina added, her voice shaking with rage. Actually, a new voice spoke up, they were legally obtained through whistleblower protocols. Viviana stood in the doorway, clutching a thick folder. I've been documenting everything for the past year. Percy jumped to his feet. You can't trust her. She's... Your ex-wife? Viviana finished. I know. That's why I reached out to her specifically. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Regina lunged for the presentation remote, but I held it out of reach. Shall I continue? I asked the board. I have quite a collection, including some interesting correspondence about my own thesis. Nina, Percy pleaded, we can talk about this privately. I turned to him, letting him see the full weight of my contempt. Like we talked about it when you and your mother destroyed 5 years of my work, or when you suggested I focus on starting a family instead of my career. I was trying to protect you, he stammered. No, I corrected him. You were protecting her. I gestured to Regina, who had sunk into her chair, her perfect posture finally breaking. And now you can both watch everything you built crumble, just like I did. Eric raised his hands for silence. Dr. Richardson, what are your recommendations? I clicked to my final slide. Complete restructuring, new board oversight, full transparency audits, and... I paused, savoring the moment. Regina's immediate resignation. You can't do this, Regina whispered. I already have. I turned to the board. You have 24 hours to accept these terms, or I take my evidence to the press. Trent stood up. This is a family matter. We should discuss this privately. That's exactly the problem, I replied. This foundation stopped being a family matter the moment it started destroying careers to protect your fragile male egos. Nina, Percy tried again. I held up my hand. Dr. Richardson, I corrected him. And I'm not finished. Viviana, please distribute the full reports. She moved around the table, handing out thick folders. Regina's hands shook as she opened hers. Page 3 is particularly interesting, I noted. The pattern of targeting women who might overshadow your sons, the systematic destruction of research that could expose Foundation misconduct. Mother? Trent's voice cracked as he read. Is this true? Regina's silence was answer enough. The board will recess for 1 hour, Eric announced. Dr. Richardson, please wait in my office. As I gathered my materials, Regina finally found her voice. You've been planning this for 2 years. No, I replied, meeting her eyes. I've been building something you couldn't destroy. The revenge was just a bonus. In Eric's office, Fatima was waiting. How did it go? I sank into a chair, finally letting my hands shake. Exactly as planned. And Percy? Looked exactly like someone watching their mother's kingdom fall. I smiled. Turns out karma doesn't need our help. It just needs good documentation. Through the window, I could see Regina and Percy in heated discussion on the street below. Their gestures were wild, desperate. For the first time in 2 years, I felt something close to peace. What now? Fatima asked. I touched the window, watching Regina's world implode. Now we wait for the board's decision. But really, they only have one choice. Karma's a patient teacher, Fatima mused. Yes, I agreed, and I was an excellent student. The Foundation's offices buzzed with nervous energy as I conducted my audit. Employees whispered in corners, falling silent when I passed. My temporary office, once Regina's private conference room, still held traces of her expensive perfume. Viviana knocked and entered, carrying a stack of files. You need to see these, she said, spreading documents across the desk. Regina didn't just target academics. She systematically removed any woman who showed leadership potential within the Foundation. I picked up a personnel file. Sarah from accounting? Forced out after questioning financial discrepancies, Regina claimed she was emotionally unstable. And Maria in grant management? Computer crash erased all her files right before a major presentation. Regina suggested she was careless with data. A knock at the door interrupted us. Percy stood in the doorway, looking deflated in his rumpled suit. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Alone?" I nodded to Viviana, who gathered her files and left, closing the door behind her. Percy sat heavily in the visitor's chair. "You've really thought of everything, haven't you?" "I learned from the best," I replied. "Your mother taught me the importance of thorough documentation." "Nina, I know I hurt you." "Dr. Richardson," I corrected him. "And you didn't hurt me. You tried to destroy me." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my chest ache. "I was weak. Mother said your research would damage the Foundation's reputation. She convinced me it was for your own good. And now?" I gestured to the files spread across the desk. "Was it for their own good too?" "I didn't know about the others," he protested. "You didn't want to know." I leaned forward. "Tell me, Percy, did you ever actually read my thesis, the one you helped destroy?" He looked away. "Parts of it." "Then you missed the central argument. Whistleblowers don't emerge from nowhere. They're created by systems that value power over ethics. Sound familiar?" A commotion outside drew our attention. Regina's voice carried through the door, sharp with anger. "I don't care what she says. I built this foundation." I stood, opening the door to find Regina facing off with Trent in the hallway. "Mother," Trent was saying, "the evidence is overwhelming. We have to cooperate." "Evidence?" Regina spat. "Stolen emails and disgruntled employees? I was protecting our legacy. By destroying careers?" I stepped into the hallway. "By targeting women who threatened your son's fragile superiority?" Regina whirled to face me. "You have no idea what it takes to protect a family's reputation in this world." "Actually, I do." I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. Regina's voice filled the hallway. "Make sure nothing remains. No backups, no traces. That ambitious little wife of Percy's needs to learn her place." The color drained from her face. "Where did you get that?" "Your own security system. Turns out your IT department keeps excellent records when properly motivated." Trent grabbed Regina's arm as she swayed. "Mother, enough. It's over." "It's not over," she hissed. "I still have friends on the board." "Had," I corrected her. "Before I showed them the offshore accounts." Percy stepped forward. "What offshore accounts?" I turned to him. "The ones your mother used to hide Foundation money. Did you really think I'd stop at just the ethics violations?" Regina's composure finally cracked. "You vindictive little—" "Careful," I cut her off. "Everything in this building is still being recorded." Trent pulled out his phone, checking a message. "The board's made their decision. They're calling us in." As we walked to the boardroom, I felt Regina's eyes boring into my back. 2 years ago, I'd fled this building in tears. Now I walked its halls with purpose, my heels clicking against marble like a countdown. Eric waited at the head of the conference table, his face grave. "Mrs. Harrison, in light of the evidence presented, the board has voted unanimously. You are to resign, effective immediately." "And if I refuse?" Regina's voice shook. "Then Dr. Richardson releases everything to the press." Eric slid a document across the table. "Your resignation letter is already prepared." Regina stared at the paper, her perfectly manicured hands trembling. "This is my foundation." "Was," I corrected softly. "Now it's a case study in corporate accountability." She picked up the pen, her signature sharp and angry across the page. "The board has appointed Trent as interim CEO," Eric continued, "with Dr. Richardson's firm overseeing the restructuring." Regina stood abruptly, her chair scraping back. "You'll regret this, all of you." I watched her storm out, Percy trailing behind her like always. Trent remained, looking lost. "What happens now?" he asked. I gathered my files, thinking of all the women whose careers Regina had tried to destroy. Now we rebuild. The right way this time. The satisfaction wasn't in Regina's fall. It was in knowing that from these ashes, something better would rise. The media circus outside the Harrison Foundation grew larger each day. I watched from my office window as reporters camped out, hoping to catch Regina leaving the building one last time. "Dr. Richardson," Viviana appeared at my door. "The restructuring committee is ready." The conference room was packed with board members, executives, and legal counsel. Trent sat at the head of the table, looking uncomfortable in his new role as interim CEO. "Let's begin," I said, distributing folders. "Our first priority is reaching out to every woman whose career was impacted by the Foundation's actions." "That could open us up to lawsuits," one of the lawyers protested. "It already has." I clicked to my first slide. 3 class actions are being prepared, but we can get ahead of this with a comprehensive restitution program. The door burst open. Regina strode in, Percy at her heels. "This is still my foundation," she announced, "and I won't let you destroy it with this witch hunt." "Mother," Trent warned, "you're not supposed to be here." "I'm here as a shareholder," she snapped. "And I demand—" "You're not in a position to demand anything," I interrupted, pulling out a USB drive. "Unless you'd like me to play the security footage from last week." The room fell silent. Regina's face went pale. "What security footage?" Eric asked. I connected the drive to the projector. Regina's voice filled the room. "Shred everything! I don't care if it's illegal. Nothing can link us to those project cancellations." "Turn it off," Percy pleaded. "There's more," I said calmly. "Hours of footage, years of emails. Should I continue?" Regina gripped the back of a chair. "You're bluffing." "Like you bluffed about my thesis backups?" I smiled. "I learned from the best, remember?" "The board has already voted," Eric said firmly. "Regina, if you don't leave voluntarily, security will escort you out. This is what you wanted, isn't it?" Regina turned to me, her voice cracking. "To humiliate me." "No." I stood, facing her directly. "I wanted justice, not just for me, but for every woman you tried to destroy. The humiliation is just a bonus." Percy stepped forward. "Nina, please, there must be some way to—" "To what?" I cut him off. "To protect her again? That's all you've ever done, Percy. Protected her right to hurt people." Trent cleared his throat. "Security is on their way." Regina straightened her spine, smoothing her jacket. "You think you've won? This foundation will collapse without me." "Actually," Viviana spoke up, "our preliminary audit shows the foundation's reputation has already improved since your resignation." 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. "Mrs. Harrison," one said quietly, "please come with us." Regina's exit was everything I'd imagined and nothing I'd expected. She walked out with her head high, but her hands shook. Percy followed her to the elevator, then turned back. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Just 5 minutes." I glanced at my watch. "You have 3. When the room cleared, he sat heavily across from me. "I've been a coward." "Yes." "I should have protected you." "Yes." "I'm sorry." I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I'd loved, who'd chosen his mother's approval over his wife's dreams. "Sorry doesn't rebuild careers, Percy. Sorry doesn't give back lost years." "What can I do?" he asked. "Step down," I said simply. "Let Trent lead the restructuring. Go find out who you are without your mother's influence." His face crumpled. "And us?" "There is no us. There hasn't been since the morning you watched me cry over my destroyed thesis and pretended to care. A knock at the door saved him from responding. Fatima entered, carrying a newspaper. "You're going to want to see this," she said, spreading it on the table. The headline read, "Harrison Foundation Whistleblower Revealed. Former family member exposes years of corruption." "They found out who you are," Percy whispered. I picked up the paper, scanning the article. "No," I said. "Viviana leaked it, with my permission." "Why?" "Because hiding implies shame." I stood, gathering my files. "And I'm not ashamed of surviving what your family tried to do to me." Percy stayed seated, looking lost. "What happens now?" "Now?" I walked to the door. "Now I do what I always wanted to do, protect whistleblowers and expose corruption. Your mother just gave me the perfect case study." As I left him there, I felt lighter. The revenge I'd planned for 2 years was complete, but it wasn't the victory that satisfied me. It was the knowledge that somewhere a woman was reading this story and realizing she wasn't alone. That sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's reconstruction. The morning of Regina's public resignation, the press packed the Foundation's lobby like sardines. I stood at the back, watching through the sea of cameras as she approached the podium. "After careful consideration," she read from her prepared statement, "I am stepping down as director of the Harrison Foundation." Camera shutters clicked rapidly. Regina's hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. "My successor, Trent, will oversee the Foundation's new direction, focusing on transparency and ethical leadership." A reporter shouted from the crowd, "Mrs. Harrison, what about the allegations of systematic discrimination?" Regina's mask slipped for just a moment. Her eyes found mine in the crowd, and I saw raw hatred there. "No questions at this time," the PR representative interrupted. As Regina turned to leave, another voice rang out. "Dr. Richardson, is it true you were once married to Percy Harrison?" The room froze. Regina stopped mid-stride. Every camera swiveled toward me. Before I could respond, Fatima appeared at my elbow. "Dr. Richardson will be conducting a separate press conference this afternoon." We slipped through a side door as the reporters erupted with questions. In the quiet of the emergency stairwell, Fatima grabbed my arm. "Are you ready for this? Once you go public, everything changes." "It already has." I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Percy, a text from Trent asking to meet. Up in my office, Viviana waited with a stack of newspapers. "You're trending on social media. Women are coming forward with their own stories of corporate sabotage." "Good." I sat at my desk, opening my laptop. "That's exactly what we wanted." "Nina." Percy stood in the doorway, looking haggard. "Mother's threatening to sue for defamation." "Let her," I replied, not looking up. "Truth is an absolute defense." "She's not well. This has broken her." "No." I finally met his eyes. "This has exposed her. There's a difference." My phone buzzed. A message from an international ethics consortium. They wanted me to lead their corporate accountability division. "You're leaving?" Percy asked, reading over my shoulder. "The Foundation isn't the only organization that needs cleaning up." I showed him the offer. "They want me to develop global whistleblower protection protocols." "Based on what happened here?" "Based on what happens everywhere." I stood, gathering my coat. "The press conference starts in an hour." "What will you say?" "The truth. All of it." The Foundation's press room was standing room only. I took my place at the podium, cameras flashing like lightning. "My name is Dr. Nina Richardson. 2 years ago, my doctoral thesis on corporate whistleblower protection was deliberately destroyed by Regina Harrison and her son Percy, my then husband." The room erupted. In the back, I saw Regina push through the door, her face white with fury. That destruction led me to discover a pattern of similar actions against women throughout the Foundation's history. Today, I'm announcing the creation of the Corporate Accountability Project, funded by the restructured Harrison Foundation. "This is absurd!" Regina's voice cut through the chaos. "She's lying." "Actually," Trent stepped forward from the side of the room, "we have proof of everything. Mother, please sit down." "You too?" she whispered. "My own son?" "Yes," he said firmly, "because you taught us loyalty to family, but not to truth." A reporter raised her hand. "Dr. Richardson, what would you say to other women facing similar situations?" I looked directly into the nearest camera. "Document everything. Build quietly. And remember, sometimes the people trying to break you are actually making you stronger." "And to Regina Harrison," another called out. I smiled, thinking of that morning 2 years ago when I'd lost everything. "Thank you for the case study." The press conference lasted another hour. When it finally ended, Fatima found me in my office, packing up my things. "The consortium wants you to start next month," she said, "in Geneva." "Perfect timing." I closed my laptop for the last time. "The Foundation's in good hands with Trent and Viviana. And Regina. Last I heard, she's retreated to her summer house. Percy's with her, of course." Fatima smiled. "Some people never change." "No," I agreed, "but some of us do." As we left the building, a final reporter caught up with us. "Dr. Richardson, one last question. Was this about revenge?" I thought about Regina's face as her empire crumbled, about Percy's weak apologies, about all the women who'd lost their dreams to protect the Harrison legacy. "No," I said finally. "This was about justice. Revenge is what small people do. Justice is what changes the world." The evening news would lead with Regina's resignation, but the real story was in the hundreds of emails flooding my inbox, women sharing their stories, asking for help, ready to fight back. I'd gone from being a victim to becoming a symbol. But more importantly, I'd become exactly what Regina had feared most. A woman too powerful to silence. The coastal villa's silence was broken only by waves crashing against the shore. I sat at my desk, watching the footage from yesterday's press conference play on my laptop. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing with notifications since. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. Fatima entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "The journalist's footage arrived," she said, setting a USB drive on my desk. "The one who asked if you were Percy's ex-wife." "Have you watched it?" She nodded. "It's powerful. The question is, do we use it?" I plugged in the drive. The video showed Regina's face the moment my identity was revealed. The mask cracking, the raw hatred emerging. Then Percy, looking lost and small. Finally me, standing calm in the chaos. "The consortium called again," Fatima continued. "They want to know if you'll make a statement about your personal connection to the case. Send them this." I pulled out an envelope, sealed with the university's logo. Inside was my reinstated dissertation, the one Regina had tried to destroy, now published and acclaimed. My phone buzzed. A text from Viviana. "Regina's trying to call an emergency shareholder meeting. Trent shut it down." "She never learns," Fatima mused, reading over my shoulder. "No," I agreed, "but others will." Another buzz. This time from Percy. "Can we talk? One last time?" I stepped onto the villa's balcony, the sea breeze carrying away the lingering weight of the past 2 years. Dialed his number. "Nina?" His voice was rough, tired. "What do you want, Percy?" "Mother's not well. The doctors say it's the stress." "Stop." I cut him off. "You're still trying to make me responsible for her choices." Silence stretched between us. "You're right," he finally said. I keep thinking about that morning, when your laptop wouldn't start. I could have stopped her. Yes, I agreed. You could have. The foundation board wants me to resign too. Good. Is that what you wanted? To destroy us completely? I watched a seabird dive into the waves, emerge triumphant with its prey. No, Percy. I wanted to build something stronger than your mother's fear. Something that would help others survive what we did to them. We? Yes, we. You weren't just a bystander. You chose your side. More silence. The funny thing about revenge, I continued, is that it doesn't feel like I thought it would. I'm not celebrating Regina's fall or your resignation. I'm celebrating every woman who's contacted me saying she finally feels brave enough to speak up. You've changed, he said softly. No, I've become who I always was. Your mother just helped me realize it. After hanging up, I returned to my desk, opened my laptop to the blank document I'd been avoiding. Dear Ethics Review Board, I typed. I'm writing to accept the position of Global Director of Whistleblower Protection, with one condition. The first case must be a full investigation of the Harrison Foundation's historical practices. Fatima read over my shoulder. That's going to open a lot of old wounds. Good, I replied. Some wounds need to be opened to heal properly. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Trent. Board approved the new Whistleblower Protection Program. We're naming it after you. I smiled, thinking of Regina reading that announcement. What now? Fatima asked. I walked to the balcony again, watching the sun set over the ocean. Now we do what I should have done 2 years ago. We help others fight back. Properly, legally, and publicly. And Regina gets to live with knowing that every time someone stands up to corporate bullying, they'll use the program that bears my name. Every time a whistleblower succeeds, they'll remember how her actions built this. Poetic justice, Fatima said. No, I corrected her. Just justice. I returned to my desk, picked up my original thesis, the one Regina had tried to destroy, opened to the dedication page and wrote, To every woman who was told to be quiet, stay small, know her place. Your voice matters. Your work matters. And no one can delete your worth. Signed it simply. Dr. Nina Richardson. Tomorrow, I'd send copies to every university library in the country. Let Regina try to destroy that. But tonight, I walked along the shore, letting the waves wash away the last traces of the woman who'd fled in the night 2 years ago. She'd been running from destruction. I was walking toward construction. The funny thing about revenge, they thought it would break me, but it built me. And now, it would build others too. That was better than any revenge I could have planned.